At 2 with the latest news for the West Midlands, I'm Louise Hancock. First, some breaking news, and in the last few minutes we've heard that an agreement's been reached to end the Birmingham bin strike. Councillor John Cotton, the Labour leader of the City Council, has said that after months of frustration and delay, for the first time in over 12 months, a negotiated settlement to end the strike is now within sight. He adds that it's been a challenging and complex process, but he believes a new improved offer can be made and terms can be put in place that address what he calls the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS that Unite members can agree in order to end the strike once and for all. We'll have more on this developing story throughout the afternoon here on BBC Radio WM. We also have a special live page on the Birmingham and Black Country news pages of our website. And just a recap of our breaking news this hour. In the last few minutes, we've heard that an agreement has been reached to end the Birmingham bin strike. More on that throughout the afternoon.
But breaking news that we have to tell you about. Lou Hancock has the latest on news reporter. Hi, Louise.
Good afternoon, Trish. Yeah, we've literally just in the last 10-15 minutes or so, we received a press release saying that Labour and the Unite Union have reached an agreement that will end the Birmingham bin strikes. And you might remember, this has been going on since, well, initially January last year, where they started sort of indefinite action, a few days here and there, and then it became all-out action in March. So it's been all-out action for over a year now. In the last few minutes, we've heard from the Unite Union and Labour. Councillor John Cotton, who is the Labour leader of the City Council, has said, and I quote, "After months of frustration and delay, for the first time in over 12 months, a negotiated settlement to end the bin strike is now within sight." He says that this has been a challenging and complex process, but after months of hard work on the principles and parameters of a deal, he now believes that a new improved offer can be made and terms can be put in place that address the what he calls the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS, that's the conciliation union, that Unite members can agree to in order to end the strike once and for all. He says a deal that would be good for the workforce, represent good value for money. I would not repeat the mistakes of the past and risk creating new structural and equal pay liabilities. Now, I remember this all started because of a pay dispute and the fact that the City Council wanted to get rid of certain driver roles as well, which the Unite Union claimed would leave some of their members worse off by up to about £8,000 a year. And I'm sure this will be welcome news for not just people living in Birmingham, but obviously people living on the outskirts of Birmingham as well. We've heard about tips and fly tipping in other areas, and of course it spilled into Coventry as well just a few weeks ago with some I think it was to do with the workers there
potentially using like the Tom White bin disposal companies, the private company used by Coventry City Council. And of course Coventry know all about this. A few years ago we had a bin lorry driver strike that went on for 7 months, so we all memories of wheeling the wheelie bin to the War Memorial Park. But for now there seems to be an end within sight to this year-long Birmingham bin strike, Louise.
Yeah, and Councillor Cotton's gone on to say that while the pre-election period prevents the council from making a final decision prior to those elections on the 7th of May, he's saying that a re-elected Labour administration under his leadership will work to get the deal approved as a matter of absolute priority. We'll have more on that throughout the show this afternoon as well. I think you've got some guests coming in, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got one campaigner, Reverend Desmond Jadu, who was encouraging people not to pay their council tax if this wasn't going to be sorted anytime soon. Thank you, Louise Hancock. Thank you for that breaking insider news. Well, it's your afternoon show as always. If you've got instant reaction to this, there seems to be an end in sight to the year-long Birmingham bin strike. But at 2:15, the breaking news today is that the leader of Birmingham City Council says the end to the year-long bin strike in the city is within sight. John Cotton says he believes a new offer could be made to the Unite Union, whose members have been on an all-out strike since March 2025. What started out as a series of one-day strikes over a roll on the council's waste collection teams has turned into one of the longest-running industrial disputes of modern times. The Birmingham City Council Council has taken on agency crews to help collect waste, but recycling collections have been on hold for more than a year. A lot of you getting in touch with us this afternoon. It's your afternoon show. You use it. Right, so we have, let's have a see. Rockstar Pete is covering for Brett today on the phone. Who's on the phone? We've got Dave in Rubery. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Trish.
Hello. Don't tell me how you're voting, because we're in that sort of crazy period, election period.
I won't be telling you who I'm voting for. But the bin strike, I'm just glad it's done, because it's nearly took as long as Coventry to get promoted, didn't it? You know what I mean?
Don't you start, okay? Let's not spoil the mood. Coventry back in the top flight after 25 years. It hasn't taken that long. But are you relieved that there's potentially an end in sight?
Yeah, because I can stop going to my parents 2 roads up and emptying their bins and bringing them back to mine, because mine get emptied.
Oh, goodness me. So for you, it's a relief potentially if this strike is to end. Thank you very much, Dave in Rubery. Good to speak to you. And yeah, it's great that the Sky Blues are back up in the top flight. Thank you. Good luck to Villa, of course. They're playing in the Europa League against Forest this week. I know your team will be loving that. That's for sure. Thank you. We've had some more reaction as well. And we will be speaking to Desmond Jadu. He'll be coming into the studio. He was adamant that there should be drastic reactions and potentially not even paying your council tax if this bin strike had gone on any longer. Jason says he's glad that it's the end potentially in sight. Chris as well, amazing. But why now is cynical as to why this has happened now. Whatever you wanted to say it. Your afternoon show, use it. And then today, the breaking news that the bin strike, the Birmingham bin strike, that's been the bane of the West Midlands, all sorts of, it's just been awful, hasn't it? Our patch, the West Midlands, being in the spotlight across the country and indeed the world. I heard American TV talking about rats the size of cats because of the Birmingham bin strike, allegedly. And now we're hearing that the leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, says the end to the year-long bin strike in the city is within sight. So what say you? Good to hear from many of you who've got in touch today. Daniel says, fantastic news regarding the bin strikes. I've had to take my rubbish down to the tip every few weeks, so this is great news. Mickey Yardley says, well, it's funny all of a sudden that the elections are coming up. It seems to be resolved. There's no guarantee it will be sorted. Claire in Coventry says, Trish, remember what happened to us with our bin lorry driver strike? Yeah, I was there, sort of wheeling me wheelie bin for me neighbours, collecting their bin bags and going down to the War Memorial Park. That took 7 months to resolve. Mohammed says, great news if it lasts. Gareth says, I hope this is the end of it, and I hope it is all resolved and the bin workers get what they deserve. Phil's not impressed at all. Let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts, and like I say, we'll continue to bring you an update as we get it. Onye Kassab from Unite says he wants to see a resolution to this dispute, admitting that there's a potential deal on the table, but it will still have to go to the union's members. Okay, as always, get involved. Your afternoon show, you use it. Breaking news today, if you've just joined me, well, it looks like, say it quietly, it looks like there'll be an end in sight to the Birmingham bin strikes. You know they've been going on so long. It's been talked about on this show for so long. Thank you very much, Mina. Trish, Coventry managed to sort it out in less time. Well, it was around 7 months, wasn't it? It was 7 months that Coventry did it. And that was the bin lorry drivers strike. So they were striking slightly different, but yes, 7 months in total. But we're hearing that the leader of Birmingham City Council has said in the last 25 minutes, the end to the year-long bin strike in the city is within sight. John Cotter says he believes a new offer could be made to the Unite Union, whose members have been on an all-out strike since March last year. He says it will go to the union members and he wants to see a resolution to the dispute. That's on a Kassab from Unite. And again, we all know it's been going on and on. If you have anything to say, then say it. We've got Jason in Handsworth. Afternoon to you, Jason.
Good afternoon, young lady. You all right?
Oh, young lady, you can come again.
You said that last time.
You can keep telling me I'm young. Hello. Right.
Hello, yes.
So don't tell me who you're voting for, if at all you're voting in the May elections. But what's your reaction to potentially there is an end in sight?
Well, unless it's written in stone, then basically, if it does happen and they all come back to work, it's been over a year for us now in Birmingham. So you'll see them and they'll just like fall out the truck, stand around, get the wheelie bin, stand at the back of the truck and what button do I press?
They
what
will.
we're doing?
I'm sure they will know what to do. You are naughty, Jason. Get off.
Yeah, well,
I'm
Trish,
sure. Go on.
If they would have announced the news on Friday, what a great idea if somebody would have actually cut the bottom of the wheelie bin out and done the London Marathon wearing that.
Oh my goodness. Hold on, that would have been a great idea.
So what? Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. That would have been great. Mind you, they do dress up in all sorts. Thanks, Jason. The big breaking news in the West Midlands is that Birmingham Council leader John Cotton says an end to the year-long bin strike is within sight. That's the breaking news today. We've got Bishop Dr. Desmond Jadu, MBE, in the studio coming to react to that. Afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Trish.
I mean, you know, this is what so many people potentially have wanted. What's your reaction?
I'm pleased at the progress which has been announced today. We're trying to speak to Unite just to ensure where we are. I'm assuming it's an agreement in principle. But, you know, it's taken far too long, but we are where we are now. I've been looking at the responses on social media and there are some people saying, oh, it's quite convenient. But convenience or not, it's important that we start cleaning up our city. And that's the most important thing, and get the basics right. And I received a lot of criticism when I called for people to withhold their council tax. And I know letters have gone into Councillor Cotton, and I will give him credit. He has responded to people who have sent those letters in. But I believe this should have been resolved ages ago. In fact, to be honest, we shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Well, let's talk about your campaign in just a moment. But, you know, Coventry's had this back in 2023. You know, we had the bin lorry driver strike that went on for 7 months. It was resolved because the payment was made. The workers were then happy. We know, don't we, that Birmingham City Council is effectively, you know, they say their books are balancing, you know, sort of, and they're back, you know, better than they were, but we know the money is going to be a real issue. You know, have they got it to offer this new deal on the table as we're hearing?
Well, my council tax has gone up to £2,700 per year. So, I mean, councils need to look at how they spend their money. And one of the important things with this dispute is that they spent £15 million out of contingencies plus, by the way. And could that money have not been spent to actually sort this dispute out in the first place? And importantly as well, I believe that they have to look at and investigate the actions of officers in this case, because for the simple reason, was it mismanagement that caused all of this? There needs to be greater accountability to us, the council taxpayers of Birmingham.
Well, I'm sure the council, if they were here, would say, look, we tried to make it happen. We haven't got the money that we can magic up anywhere. We're hearing that Onay Kassab, who I'm sure you know very well, from Unite, says he wants to see a resolution. He's got to take this new potential deal to the union members. But, you know, it's been a real bane, hasn't it? It's put Birmingham on the map for the wrong reasons. Even as far as America, we're talking about how bad Birmingham and the West Midlands are because of this bin strike.
It's been to America. I had a friend go to Hajj in Saudi Arabia. He went there and all they were talking about was bins and Birmingham. The facts are, at the end of the day, we're a great city, we're a vibrant city. However, we've been let down. And importantly, what we need to do now is we've got a lot of fixing up to do, and we have to get ourselves together to make Birmingham the city that it should be. This, as far as I'm concerned, should have been resolved last year, because it's my understanding that there was an agreement in principle last year. That's never been denied anywhere. And it was withdrawn. For whatever reason there was. We're not going to go into the politics of that. I'm just hoping and praying now that we can finally get this dispute resolved, so that I do not smell rotting rubbish when I walk about, which I do. I do not see rats running around, and our children in this great city can go to school without any form of public health hazard.
We've had a text here. Thumbs up to you, Desmond, for putting the issue or pushing the issue for all us Brummies, says Dave the alarm man. Bella in Wellsbourne says, where are they going to get this extra money from? Some people are saying this is very convenient because, of course, the election's around the corner. You went one step further saying, look, let's not pay our council tax. Of course, that would be illegal. But if this doesn't play out, what would be the next step?
Interesting. A lot of people said withholding your council tax is illegal. It is also, in my view, unlawful not to deliver the services that you pay for. And remember, we were only talking about withholding your council tax and, put it into a separate bank account. If this doesn't work out, we're going to be in a major crisis. But I am hopeful. If the negotiators have agreed it in principle, then I do believe that the workers may well agree to it. Because I think one thing with the negotiators, they are crystal clear on where they stand. However, if it's not agreed, then we don't want to be going through the next 12 months of this, because the facts are, at the end of the day, our city's getting dirtier. And we don't want to be known for that. We don't want to be known for living in the dirty city that is rat-infested, smelling of rotten rubbish. But most of all, I'm concerned about our children and their health and well-being. That's the important thing.
Bishop Dr. Desmond Jadu, MBE, thank you very much for talking to us. A lot of reaction coming in as well. Some cynical, some saying, they hope it will happen, but they can't see it. But we do know this is one of the UK's biggest industrial disputes in recent years. Keep letting us know what your thoughts are.
At 3 with the latest news for the West Midlands, I'm Louise Hancock. First this afternoon, one of the biggest industrial disputes of recent years looks set to end. The Labour-led Birmingham City Council and the Unite Union have reached an agreement that is expected to bring the year-long bin strike to an end. BBC Radio WM's Chris Blakemore has the details.
The dispute initially centred on the council's decision to remove waste recycling and collection officer roles, which the union claimed about 170 affected workers face losing up to £8,000 a year. Those are figures the council disputed, though. In a statement, John Cotton has said that a negotiated settlement to end the strike is now within sight, and after months of hard work, he believes a new improved offer can be made. Unite says the move shows the power of workers and how that can be realised when they're backed by their union.
Well, Unite says the full details of the deal will remain confidential and will have to be voted on by the bin workers. The Labour Mayor of the West Midlands, Richard Parker, says he welcomes the agreement reached by the Council and Unite after what he calls a difficult period for the city. And we have asked other parties on Birmingham City Council for responses to today's statement, and we'll bring you those as soon as we have them. And there's further reaction on our special live page on the Birmingham and Black Country pages of the BBC News website.
Thank you. A lot of you getting in touch today about the bin strikes. We heard earlier today, breaking news today on the afternoon show, that the Birmingham year-long bin strike is within sight of coming to an end. That's what the leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, has said today. He believes a new offer could be made to Unite Union, whose members have been on an all-out strike since March last year. So So we'll be talking about that. Unite say via One Kassab, they want to see a resolution to the dispute, but a potential deal on the table will have to go to the union members. Thank you very much. Mohammed says, great news. Alan says, I'm a bit cynical. Is this because of the elections that are heading there? Hanny in Rugby says, I was around in Coventry's bin lorry strike. Well, there's a bin lorry driver strike, actually. That lasted 7 long months as well. The big main story is all about the Birmingham bin strikes. And the leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, has announced that after a 12-month-long strike, the end to the Birmingham bin strikes is now in sight. We've been hearing all of your thoughts here on the afternoon show, and I spoke to Bishop Desmond Jadu. He had been campaigning for people to withhold their council tax unless it had been sorted out. He gave me his reaction to the news.
I'm pleased at the progress which has been announced today. We're trying to speak to Unite just to ensure where we are. I'm assuming it's an agreement in principle, but it's taken far too long. And there are some people saying, oh, it's quite convenient. But convenience or not, it's important that we start cleaning up our city. And that's the most important thing, and get the basics right.
Bishop Desmond Jadu there. In reaction to that news, we've been hearing from other parties in the last hour. Robert Oldham from the Conservative Party has said this is Labour putting their own political interests ahead of the residents and the city. Julian Pritchard from the Green Party said this is an utterly cynical and desperate attempt to save Labour's electoral skin. Why wasn't this done 10 months ago? And Reform UK, a spokesperson from there, said Labour's Birmingham Council are back to the same ACAS deal they rejected last year after wasting nearly £40 million of taxpayers' money and leaving the city in crisis. We have asked for the Lib Dems to make a comment, but are yet to hear anything. What's your reaction that the end might be in sight? A lot of you getting in touch about the potential end of the Birmingham bin strikes. Pete in Warwick says, hi Trish. Finny, how there might be a breakthrough on the situation a few days before the council elections. That's been echoed by Chris of Stourbridge as well. And thank you very much to Mohammed, who said that we just want to see an end in sight and for everything to go back to normal. Okay, whatever you want to say it. Your afternoon show, use it.
At 5 with the latest news for the West Midlands, I'm Louise Hancock. First this evening, the leader of Birmingham City Council says the end to the year-long bin strike is within sight.
This has been a challenging and complex process, but after months of hard work on the principles and parameters of a deal, I believe a new improved offer can be made and terms put in place that address the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS.
That's John Cotton, the leader of the Labour-led council. What started out as a series of one-day strikes over a role on the council's waste collection teams turned into one of the UK's biggest industrial disputes in recent years. The Unite union says that the full details of the deal will remain confidential and will have to be voted on by its members. One Kassab is from the union.
What we've seen of that potential agreement, it can resolve the dispute. The reality is that we're only where we are now because of our members being absolutely solid and determined on the picket line.
Well, in response to today's announcement, the Conservatives have said Labour have wasted 18 months refusing a deal for no reason. Or Labour, knowing that they're about to be kicked out of office, have just saddled Brummies with tens of millions of pounds of new equal pay debt. The Lib Dems have asked why a deal hasn't been done months ago, rather than leaving Birmingham residents to put up with this strike with no recycling or garden waste collections, calling it nothing short of a cynical pre-election ploy. Reform UK have said that nothing is changed except the election timetable, raising serious questions about whether this is a cynical electioneering ploy at the expense of bin workers. And the Green Party has described it as a cynical and desperate attempt to save Labour's electoral skin. Well, we've been getting your reaction. Judith Wally lives in Hockley.
I do think that it was time that the council and they got their act together. They've been taking so long and it just seems ridiculous.
And there's further reaction on the Birmingham and Black Country pages on the BBC News website.
It's been big news today. Leader of Birmingham City Council says the end to the year-long bin strike is within sight. That is good news to a lot of people.
This has been a challenging and complex process, but after months of hard work on the principles and parameters of a deal, I believe a new improved offer can be made and terms put in place that address the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS that Unite members can agree in order to end the strike once and for all.
Well, Unite the Union members have been taking action since January last year with an all-out strike launched in March 2025. But John Cotton added the deal could not be signed off until next week's council elections because of pre-poll restrictions on policy changes. Unite said it wanted to see an end to the dispute, but the deal would have to be put to its members. However, opposition parties have called the administration, called it a stunt ahead of next Thursday's council elections and said Labour were playing political games. What say you? Well, let's get the latest from our political reporter, Kath Stan-Cheshin. Afternoon to you, Kath.
Hi, Trish. How are you?
Very well. Good to hear you back on the radio again. Well, look, what have the council said, first of all?
Yeah, so this came out of the blue a little bit this morning. We got a notification that the Labour Party in Birmingham, because it is the Labour Party that's doing this. We're in a period, an election period, which means they have to separate a little bit the political parties and the council itself. But this is the Labour Party that runs the council. John Cotton, the leader, was going to make a statement. And so we got ready. We then heard as well that Unite were going to make a statement. And of course, it's those two sides that have been in dispute over the last 15 months it is now, and so we got ready to find out what that was. And just to remind everyone, the bin strike started because the council said it wanted to make changes, and that was the council as in the political party that runs the council, Labour, and the council officers wanting to make changes and having to downgrade some jobs within the bin service. Unite didn't like that, and that's why they went on strike. So that's the background, and there's been real stalemate, hasn't it? There's been absolutely no sign of any
movement,
kind.
deadlock.
No movement at all, deadlock between the two sides. So in one way, this is a really significant moment because you heard John Cotton there saying it's a breakthrough, saying it's within sight, saying they are putting something together now that Unite is happy with. And then we heard from Unite and they said, yes, it's a deal that we can get behind. We understand that it's up to £16,000 in compensation for workers that would be being downgraded. So their salary would go down in the future, but they'd have this sort of sliding scale of compensation to help them for a couple of years. And that's what they were wanting in the first place, and that's on the table. So all good. So you're thinking, okay, well, that seems like they've made a deal. But the question is, Trish, why is that now a deal when they couldn't do that for the last 9-10 months since last summer when they went to ACAS? So a lot of people are asking the questions of how is this happening now? They're feeling a little bit cynical about the fact that there's an election next week, because what Labour is saying is that this deal can only go ahead if they're in charge still. Well, they're not saying that. What they're saying is, if we're elected next week, we will push forward with this deal. So, it's very much related to whether or not they're still in charge. What Unite say is that we will work with any party who are in charge, but this is a good framework deal. But you're getting a lot of people a little bit cynical about the timing of this.
Well, this is it. And we've already heard from quite a lot of the opposition parties. Robert Alden from the Conservative Party saying this is Labour putting their own political interests ahead of the residents in the city. Julian Pritchard from the Green Party saying this is utterly cynical and a desperate attempt to save Labour's electoral skin. Reform UK say Labour's Birmingham Council are back to the same ACAS deal that they rejected last year. We've not heard from the Lib Dems yet, but quite a few of our listeners have echoed that. It's going to be very difficult, arguably, to not see it in that way.
Well, yeah, and I understand that. Actually, we have just had a Liberal Democrat response
great.
as well, Trish, from Councillor Roger Harmer, who's the leader of the Lib Dems on Birmingham, saying there is no deal. Pretending there's a deal threatens to make it harder. A deal can only be made by senior council officers, and I'm told they've played no part in developing this proposal. So that's what you're getting. You're getting that side of people saying no. However, you are, for the first time, hearing from the Labour leadership and Unite, who have been at loggerheads this whole time, seeming to agree. What the big question is whether or not that is logistically possible, legally and other ways, to do the deal, that compensation, that idea of compensation payment. That's what Unite are saying. The council hasn't said that. But Unite are saying that's what the deal means. So it's whether or not that's possible without creating other issues around equal pay and the things that the council were adamant were not what they could do, up until about 12:30 today. So you can see how people are sort of wondering about this, but it is still a breakthrough and it is a different position. So again, we'll have to see what happens, because we do not know what will happen with the election and who will be in charge afterwards.
Thank you very much, Kath. Good to speak to you, our political reporter, Kath Stan Cheshin. And here's what One Kassab, the leader of Unite the Union, had to say on the developments announced earlier today.
What we've seen of that potential agreement, it can resolve the dispute. The reality is that we're only where we are now because of our members being absolutely solid and determined on the picket line.
Well, a lot of you getting in touch today. Raj from Sedgley has just been in touch. Hi, Trish. Birmingham taxpayers pay £40 million to save paying how many staff the £8,000 that they could lose? Makes no sense. It would have been easier and cheaper to keep staff on the same original contracts. Thank you very much, Wendy, who says, I'm glad the bin strike is potentially over, but I won't believe it till I see it. Daniel says, fantastic news regarding the bin strikes. I've had to take my rubbish down to the tip every few weeks, so this is great news. Claire in Cowden in Coventry said, remember our bin strike? Yeah, the bin lorry driver strike. That went on for 7 months. That was a nightmare, going up and down to the War Memorial Park. I remember. Definitely. Pete in Warwick says, Trish, funny how there seems to be a breakthrough on the bin situation a few days before the council elections. John in Great Bar says the same. I could have seen a resolution to the bin strike coming because there are elections coming. Okay, all right. Hubcat says, hi Trish, I know this sounds bad, but I bet if you ask the listeners, they would all agree. I don't care if the bin strike never gets settled. The temporary bin workers are pleasant, tidy, quiet, and they're there every week. They're not all on their phones like the normal guys. Honestly, Cap, I'm sure there's some really good bin workers out there. But, each to their own. It's your opinion, and as always, this show is all about you. You've got an opinion? Say it.
At 6 with the latest news for the West Midlands, I'm Louise Hancock. The leader of Birmingham City Council says the end to the year-long bin strike in the city is within sight.
This has been a challenging and complex process, but after months of hard work on the principles and parameters of a deal, I believe a new improved offer can be made and terms put in place that address the ballpark issues discussed at ACAS.
That's John Cosson, the leader of the Labour-led council. What started out as a series of one-day strikes over a role on the council's waste collection teams turned into one of the UK's biggest industrial disputes in recent years. The Unite Union says that the full details of the deal will remain confidential and will have to be voted on by its members. In response to today's announcement, the Conservatives have said Labour have wasted 18 months refusing a deal for no reason. All Labour, knowing that they're about to be kicked out of office, have just saddled Brummies with with tens of millions of pounds of new equal pay debt. The Lib Dems have asked why a deal hasn't been done months ago, rather than leaving Birmingham's residents to put up with the strike with no recycling or garden waste collections, calling it nothing short of a cynical pre-election ploy. Reform UK have said that nothing has changed except the election timetable, raising serious questions about whether this is cynical electioneering at the expense of bin workers. And the Green Party has described it as a cynical and desperate attempt to save Labour's electoral skin. Judith Wally lives in Hockley and gave us her reaction to the announcement.
Wow, I was beginning to wonder whether we would see the end of this. I mean, almost is what they're saying. It would be nice not to have to go to the tip every few weeks